from RTO here. Welcome to Marathon Wednesday. Today we have got a viewer's request. And we're looking at super prog pop, whatever you want to call them, Genesis. One of my favourite bands. I love all their albums, but I particularly like some better than others. So this ranking it's just purely a personal thing. I don't, as I said, I don't dislike Genesis at all. I listen to all their albums, but there's ones that I listen to more than others. So Genesis, of course, were formed at Charterhouse School in Surrey, and it was formed by Tony Banks, Mike Rutherford and Peter Gabriel. And two other chaps joined them later on, a certain Phil Collins and Steve Hackett, and the rest is history, really. So we got there's 15 studio albums, and let's get a cracking. So coming in at number 15, we have the 11th studio album by Genesis, released in September of 1981, and of course it was Phil Collins on drums, Tony Banks on keyboards, and Mike Rutherford on the guitars. First track, of course, is the classic Abacab. I love this song. I like the keyboard bit right towards the end, with that little jam. It's better live, this track. It's truly a great track. Then we come to a track called No Reply at All. Right, I don't dislike this track at all. In fact, I think it's pretty cool, but it does not belong on a Genesis album. This is something for Phil Collins' solo albums. It's not a Genesis track. Genesis tracks do not have horns, like they sound like they're coming off of a Phil Collins album. No. For me and Sarah Drain, I don't like the start of this. It's that horrible drum machine. Why do you need a drum machine when you've got Phil Collins, who's an outstanding drummer? It's got a catchy tune to it. It's okay. It's not a bad track. It's not my favourite. Keep It Dark. I like this one. It's quite catchy, actually. It's got a nice riff in it. Pretty good. Okay. My favourite track on the album is the Dodo Lurker. Brilliant this is. This is so proggy. The words are brilliant. It's one of the most progressive tracks they've done in a long time. It's a thoroughly brilliant piece of work. Tony Banks' keyboards on this track are fantastic. Really like them two tracks. Then we get Who Done It. Probably one of the worst tracks ever recorded by Genesis. It's not the worst. There are worse, but this is just awful. I can't see it. I don't like it at all. Never have. First time I heard it, I thought, "Oh, what the hell's this rubbish?" Yeah. Man on the Corner. Again, a really good track, but it does not belong on a Genesis album, in my opinion. This is Phil Collins' solo material. Doesn't mean I don't like it, though. It just doesn't feel right for a Genesis album. Like it or not, never been a fan of this one, I'm afraid. Again, it just doesn't sound Genesis. It's too poppy. And I'm not very keen on poppy Genesis, I'm afraid. Last track on the album, Another Record. Again, a really nice record, but you know where it belongs? On a Phil Collins solo album. Abacab. It's a shame because the tracks that are really strong in here are great. You know, Abacab and Me and Sarah Jane's pretty cool. Keep It Dark, Dodo. But I don't know what Genesis were thinking, or I mean, Phil seemed to have a lot of say in this, and some of the tracks just shouldn't be here. Not because they're rubbish, they just don't belong on a Genesis album. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 5 out of 10, purely for the great tracks. Okay then, coming in at number 14 as the 15th and final studio album, released in September of 1997, Calling All Stations. This is the first album for a long time that didn't feature Phil Collins. So we had Tony Banks on the keyboards, Mike Rutherford on guitars, and the one and only appearance on a Genesis album of Ray Wilson on lead vocals. Drums were done by Nick DeVergio on a couple of tracks, and who I think plays in another band, I can't think of their name at the moment, and Nir Zakunu plays the other tracks. Okay, first track on here is the title track, Calling All Stations. Really good track. Like them opening keyboards from Tony, and a great guitar solo from Mike Rutherford on this. Absolutely really good. Congo, catchy but a bit mediocre. Shipwrecked. I like the idea of the style of it. It's a bit like that Wish You Were Here on the radio, and then it goes into the track. It's not too bad. Not the best track though. Alien Afternoon. I like this. Sounds like a proper prog track. This does. It's goes back to the early days. You know, early 70s, early 70s. It's got a lot of atmosphere. It's a really good song. Some nice keyboard work again from Tony Banks. Outstanding keyboard player. Then we get Not About Us. I love this song. It's just a really nice song. It's not it's a romantic song, but it's not a sussy song. The words are really, really nice. If that's what you need, sounds something straight off of We Can't Dance, but it's okay. The Dividing Line, solid track. Tony Banks keyboard work again is fantastic on that. Uncertain Weather, it's alright I suppose. Small Talk, no, it's pretty weak. There Must Be Some Other Way, far too long, it doesn't go anywhere. It just goes meandering off into its own little thing. Doesn't know when to stop really. One Man's Fool. This isn't a bad track. Nice keyboard work again from Tony Banks. Throughout their career, Tony has been a fantastic servant to Genesis. His keyboard playing really makes some of these tracks. Okay, to me, this is a half decent album. I know there's a lot of people that can't stand this album, but it does try and sound like a Genesis album, a genuine Genesis album. It gone away from the pop side of Genesis. There are some really good tracks on here. If you haven't listened to it, I suggest you go and listen to it. Forget that Phil Collins isn't there. Tony Banks, and it's Tony Banks and Mike Rutherford's band. Always has been. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 5.5. Okay then, coming at number 13, we go back to where it all started. Released in 1969, the debut album From Genesis to Revelation. This features Peter Gabriel on lead and flute, Tony Banks on the keyboards, Anthony Phillips on the guitars, Mike Rutherford on bass guitar and guitars, John Silver on drums, except Silent Sun, and then that was Chris Stewart that drummed on Silent Sun. First track, Where the Sour Turns Sweet. Very pastiche, orchestral, very pleasant track. In the Beginning, love this, favourite track off the album actually. The bass line for Mr. Rutherford is outstanding. It's for this album, it's not very rocky, but this really rocks. Really good track. Fireside Song. You got to remember these were very young lads, 16, 17. Even at this time, Tony's piano playing on it is fantastic. The Serpent, another quirky track. Nothing wrong with this one. Peter Gabriel's voice is a little bit weak, but then he was a 16-year-old lad. Anthony Phillips, what a guitar player. Very, very good. Very 60s sounding though, good track. Am I Very Wrong? Great piano work from Tony. Peter's voice, you can just see where it's coming from. And this is the first time we hear a flute from Mr. Gabriel. In the Wilderness, oh, this is very proggy to me. It's got nice textures, nice little bits of drum on it. Very good track. The Conqueror, nice little 60s pop song actually. Nothing wrong with that one. In the Hiding. Peter Gabriel's vocal on this is really good, and some lovely guitar work on the acoustic by Anthony Phillips. Good player. One Day, another very pastiche song here. Again, some pleasant piano playing from Tony Banks. Window, no, don't like this one at all. It's a bit weird and wonderful, but I don't like it. In Limbo, you can tell what was coming. This has got the basis of a band that were going to go places. Starting to get that Genesis sound was starting to appear on this track. Fantastic. Then we get Silent Sun. Was a single, very commercial, very Bee Gees, but very nice. The last track, A Place to Call My Own, fantastic. Peter Gabriel's vocal range, even at 16, was brilliant. Terrific song. This album to me, I mean, if you remember I did the Then and Now show about Genesis, I think it's a truly little gem. The fantastic production. Okay, it was produced by Jonathan King. Okay, whatever he done in his part in his future, if it weren't for Jonathan King, we wouldn't have had Genesis. So I give this an RTO ranking of 6 out of 10. Okay, coming in at 12 then. We got the 12th album, released in 1983, the self-titled Genesis. This album is an album of two halves. Side 1 kicks off with Mama. Fantastic song, fantastic live. What can you say about this track? It's just awesome. especially them laughs and Phil. And when they do it live, well, when they used to do it live, I mean, I've heard him do it now, and he, bless him, he can't do what he used to, but it's still a truly amazing track. Second track is That's All. Yeah, I like this. It's catchy, it's quirky, bit of fun. There's Genesis over the years have done these little quirky, catchy tunes, and this is one of them, and it's a very pleasant track. Then we get the brilliant Home by the Sea. This is superb, especially the second Home by the Sea. Great introduction of electronic drums, the electronic pads. They fit this song perfectly. It's one of my favourite. Second Home by the Sea is one of my favourite pieces of music by Genesis. It's moving, it's atmospheric, and I have seen them do this live, and it was fantastic live. So that's side one. Side two. Illegal Alien, awful. Just a dirge. Doesn't do anything for me. Taking It All Too Hard. Good song again, very good song, but it's not Genesis. It's small Phil Collins solo. Just a Job to Do. Another lousy track. I just don't like it. I just find it annoying. I don't know. Silver Rainbow, probably the best track on side two, but it's not spectacular. It's going to get better. Oh dear. Just a dirge. Just don't like that. So this album, as I said, is the side one is the best side, and I play side one a lot. Side two, I put it on the other week just for this, and I thought, come on, find something good to say about it. I did say Silver Rainbow's pretty decent, but the rest of it is just twaddle. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 6.5. Okay then, coming in at number 11, we got the 13th album, released in 1986, Invisible Touch. I saw them on this tour. It was a pretty good tour. Great show. First track, Invisible Touch. Now this will shock you. I don't like it. I never have. I just find it irritating. Poppy rubbish from the 80s. That's all I can say about it. But this next track I love. Tonight. This is very, very good. It's modern day prog with modern touches, some great keyboard touches from Tony in this, some good drumming on this as well. Superb song, really like that one. Then we get the classic Mike Rutherford's protest song, Land of Confusion. Good tune. Everyone remembers the video though, with the spitting image puppets. Classic, really love that song. Okay, then we get into deep. No. Total dribble. Doesn't belong on a Genesis album. Put it on a love song album, but not a Genesis album. Anything she does, this is quite fun. The video to it's pretty memorable because it's got Benny Hill in it as Fred's, what's his name, Fred Squick, head of security. It's okay, it's not a Genesis track to me, it's more of a Phil Collins, but I do like it. And then we get the brilliant Domino, one of the best songs they ever did actually. I love Domino. I love the second part with that, when it really starts building up. It's sort of, to me, this is sort of a mini Supper's Ready, because it starts off quiet, builds up, and then you get that the start of the last domino, the Blood on the Mountains. It just reminds me like when you get to Willow Farm. Very, very good track. Throwing It All Away, not particularly a favourite. Then we get the Brazilian, which is the instrumental. Really good track. You know, it goes back to them early days of Los Endos and that. Very, very good. This album is pretty good in places. Lots of singles off this. I don't play it that often because it's tracks that, you know, I've heard so much and they've been played to death now, but I still love Domino. So I'm going to give it an RTO ranking of 7 out of 10. Okay, we're getting into the top 10. Coming at number 10 then is the 14th album, released in 1991. Phil Collins' last album, studio album that is, We Cant Dance. First track, No Son of Mine, pretty good track. Like that track, like the arrangement. Great vocal from Phil on that, really is strong. Then we get Jesus He Knows Me. It's okay, I suppose. The video's funny, but the song, nah, I wouldn't say it's my favourite, but I don't skip it if I play it. Okay, the next track, superb track, Driving the Last Spike, dedicated to the railway navvies. Great epic, some great keyboard runs from Tony in this. Really good, strong track. I Can't Dance. This is just dire rubbish. Never a Time. Very mediocre filler track this is. It's just a rehash if it's going to get better, personally. It doesn't do anything for me. Dreaming While You Sleep. Love this track. But what I don't like about it is the drum machine. You don't need a drum machine when you've got a damn good drummer. But I still like the track. I think I like the arrangement. It's quite atmospheric as well. Tell Me Why. Again, one of them out tracks that should be on a Phil Collins album. Living Forever. Like this one, it's got some classic Tony Banks keyboard runs in it. Brilliant. Hold on to My Heart. Now this is the worst song ever put on vinyl by Genesis. It's so dull it sends you to sleep. It's got no heart, no soul, just a dirge. The Way of the World, it's not too bad. I can listen to this one. Since I Lost You, it doesn't sound like Genesis again, it sounds like Phil Collins. It is a good song, but not a Genesis song. Then we get the brilliant Fading Lights. I think this has got some of Tony Banks' finest keyboard solos that he ever did. It's just a great track. Proper Genesis. Fantastic stuff. Okay, this album to me, pretty mixed bag here. There's some absolute belter tracks on here. Old style Genesis, they started going back to that classic Genesis sound. I still believe there's a few songs on here that shouldn't be on this album. They should have been on a Phil Collins album. But it's a better album than Invisible Touch, without a doubt. And I'll give this an RTO ranking of 7.5. Okay then, coming in at number 9. released in 1978, and there was 3, the first album that didn't have Steve Hackett. So we're now just down to Tony Banks, Mike Rutherford and Phil Collins. First track, Down and Out, fantastic track. Love this offbeat drumming from Phil on this. Again, great keyboards from Tony. Good vocal from Phil on this. Absolutely brilliant track. Undertow. It's okay. It's not my favourite track on the album, but it's pleasant enough. Ballad of Big. Excellent track. Love how the different sort of textures. Some more fantastic keyboard work from Tony. Snowbound, never been a great fan of that. Burning Road, great song, great guitar solo from Mike Rutherford on this. You know, he had big shoes to fill to take the lead guitar over from Mr. Hackett, but he does a damn good job on that track. Really strong track. Then we get my favourite track on the album, Deep in Motherlode, classic track about the gold rush, of course. Great opening, great bass and keyboards. It's just one of them great Genesis tracks. Many Too Many. Now for a slower track from Genesis, I quite like this one. I do like the arrangement, very, very good. Not a bad track at all. Scenes from a Night Dreams, short, but it's it's still classic Genesis. Absolutely stonking track. Then we get Say It's Alright Joe. I like this one. It's a nice slow song, some nice piano in this. Really, really good. The Lady Lies. A lot of people don't like this. I do. I like the story, bit of a fairy tale. Great keyboards from Tony. I love Phil's vocal in this, where he plays the hero, the villain and the narrator. All different styles of singing. Fantastic. Then we get Follow You, Follow Me. Now I'm not a great fan of this, but this is the start of that poppy start of Genesis. A lot of people like this song, but it's not one for me. Yeah, excellent album. You know, good effort when they went down to a 3-piece. Still got lots of Genesis traits, but it was starting to move away from it. But it's still a great album, and I'll give this an RTO ranking of 8 out of 10. Okay then, coming in at number 8, we've got the second album from 1970, Trespass. This features Peter Gabriel on the vocals, Anthony Phillips on acoustic, Tony Banks on Hammond, Mike Rutherford acoustic and bass and all that sort of thing, and the only drummer appearance of John Mayhew on a Genesis album. First track, Looking for Someone, solid track. Some nice guitar work from Anthony Phillips, lovely flute from Peter Gabriel again, and some interesting keyboard arrangements from Tony. Then we get White Mountain. I love this track. It's sort of Fountain of Samolsis sort of mode. I've got a bootleg version of this that was recorded at Hammersmith in 1976, and Phil sings it, and he sings it as good as Tony. I just love the keyboards in this from Tony. It's fantastic. What did I say Tony about singing? No, Phil singing this as good as Pete. Sorry. Then we get Visions of Angels. It still hangs on to them pastiche days back at Charterhouse. Yeah, but a little bit more mature. Very, very good track. Stagnation, love this track. Classic track for me. Now, if you've not really heard this one, if you've got the We Can't Dance Alongs in the medley, there's a little bit of this towards the end. Pretty good. Then we get Dusk, again one of them little pastiche songs back from Charterhouse days. Excellent. Then we get one of my favourite tracks by Genesis, probably one of the heaviest as well, The Knife. Great bass line, some great ripping guitar work from Anthony Phillips. Probably one of his best performances with Genesis, Anthony Phillips. Fantastic track. Still a great track to listen to there. Okay, still learning their trade here, but the potential, you can see the potential is really starting to come through. Still got some of their pastiche songs, but there are so many great tracks on this album. And I'm getting with an RTO ranking of 8 out of 5. I just need a drink. Okay then, coming in at number 7, we have the 10th album, released in 1980, Duke. I'd say this is the last, and the people say this is the last really true sort of proggy version of Genesis. Absolute belter of an album. Opens up with the brilliant Behind the Lines. And what's nice, they started to open up their shows again on this latest tour with this. Shows how strong this track is, and it's a firm favourite of fans. Great guitar work, great drumming, brilliant stuff. Duchess, lovely song. Love the arrangement with this. Even the drum machines fit well with this, and I love Tony's keyboard in this. Let me get this little thing. It's only about just over a minute long with Phil and Tony. It's okay. Don't know what it's there for, but they could have made that a little bit more longer. Man of Our Times, another great track. Love Phil's drumming in this, and of course Tony's keyboards are still as fantastic. Then we get to one track on here that I don't like, Misunderstanding. Just doesn't fit on the album. It just annoys me, especially when he goes, when he mumbles and stop it, rubbish. Then we get Heat Haze. Love this track. Atmospheric, dramatic, some great lyrics and great music. Turn It On Again. A classic song. But I love it, yeah. But if I never hear it again, will I get upset over it? No. Alone Tonight. It's not too bad. Not the best thing on the album, one of the weaker tracks, but it's still listenable. Cul-de-sac. Quite an interesting track, a little bit different, but what makes this track again is Tony Banks, the unsung hero of Genesis. Really good stuff. Please Don't Ask. Phil Collins being a bit self-indulgent, I'm afraid. Wrote this because of his breakup of his first marriage. I don't want to listen to your struggles. We all have them. I don't like the track. Then we get my favourite piece of music on the album, Duke's Travels. Absolutely stunning. This is proper last filling up prog rock for Genesis, I think. It's superb. Mike Rutherford is great on this. The guitar work is fantastic, and that slides nicely into Duke's End, which is a combination of Duke's Travels and a bit of Behind the Lines. Behind the Lines sort of starts and ends this album. As I said, probably one of the last progressive albums by Genesis. There are some suspect tracks on here for the new stuff, but it is an absolute belting album. And if we had a few more proggy tracks on it, it'd probably be ranked a bit higher. But I still love this album and play it a lot, so I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 9 out of 10. Okay, we're now moving into the top 6. These 6 albums are the most played albums of my Genesis collection, without a doubt. I like every track. It was hard to put these from 1 to 6, but it took me a little while to sort this one out. But I think I've got it right for now. But this is one that could change weekly. So coming in at number 6, we have from 1976, the 8th album, first one without Peter Gabriel, Trick of the Tail, absolute belter. Opens up with the brilliant Dance on a Volcano. Oh, awesome. Steve Hackett, that eerie opening guitar bit, the great vocal from Phil, brilliant track. Then we get another fantastic track, Entangled. Love this, love the harmonies, love the acoustic guitar touches from Steve Hackett on this, beautiful song. Then we get the fantastic Squonk, concert opener for many years. Love the bass line in this, and some great guitar work again from Steve Hackett. Mad Man Moon, again, love that middle bit in the with the piano and the bass. Oof, sends the hairs on the back of your neck up. Absolutely brilliant. Then we get one of their little tongue-in-cheek songs, A Robbery, Assault and Battery. Great little story. Phil again changing his voice to play different parts, but the highlight of this is the keyboard solo. One of Tony's finest, I think. It's fantastic. Then we get my favourite track on the album, Ripples. So there's so many good things about this. The harmonies, because you've got Tony that can sing, Steve can sing. They sounded really good. Great guitar solo in this from Steve Hackett. Even when you hear it now, when he does it on the Genesis Revisited with his band, it still sounds as good as ever. Great guitar solo. Then we get a Trick of the Tail. Nice quirky song, splits the album a bit, good little fun track. Then we get the brilliant Los Andos, one of the best instrumentals that done by Genesis. It's just an amazing piece of music. It's atmospheric. The keyboards and the guitar work is just fantastic. I love how it builds up into that finale. Seen them do this live and it is just superb. What an album to come back after Peter Gabriel left. Absolute gem of album, solid stuff, brilliant from top to bottom. I'll give it an RTO ranking of 9.4. Okay then, coming in number 5, this will probably shock a lot of people. 6th album, released in 1974, The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. This was the last album to feature the classic lineup of Peter Gabriel, Steve Hackett, Mike Rutherford, Phil Collins and Tony Banks, of course. First track, the title track, The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. Tony Banks' piano in this is amazing. It's quite atmospheric. Gives that atmosphere to this song. Fly on a Windshield, some of Hackett's finest work. Great guitar solo on this. He still plays it today and it sounds as good. Broadway melody of 1974. Some nice heavy riffs in this. Nice keyboard on this. So it's very, very atmospheric again. Cocoon, not too bad. Nice flute solo from Peter Gabriel. Then we get the brilliant In the Cage. Classic track. Everything about this. I think the live version is pretty cool. Phil sings this really well as well. It was absolute belting track, one of my favourites. The next track, The Grand Parade of the Lifeless Packaging. It's one of them tracks. I just find it a little bit dull. I've got no. I don't know if it's one of them tracks. I don't think that should be here. I just don't think it adds anything to it. Then we get Back in New York City. Solid track. Great drumming from Phil on this. And what I like about it is just a couple of beats behind everything else. He seems to be in his own little world, but it works superbly. Hairless Heart. Some really nice touches on the guitar from Steve Hackett. And of course Tony Banks as well. Really nice piece of music. Counting Out Time. Another track that I'm not particularly keen on. Then we get a fine track, Carpet Crawlers. One of Peter Gabriel's finest vocal performances with Genesis, I think. Love this song. The Chamber of the 32 Doors. Another great track. Solid. Then we get another little quirky rocker called Lily White Lilith. Great riff. The Waiting Room. It's 5 minutes of weirdness. Anyway, nice track. It's one of them pastiche sort of stuff, just like their really early stuff. Then we get Here Comes the Supernatural Anaesthetist. Another little quirky rock track with some nice guitar work. Then we get The Lamia. Fantastic. Great guitar solo in this from Steve Hackett. One of his best. Silent Sorrow in Empty Boats. Again, I can't see the point of this piece of music. It doesn't do anything for me. Let me get the Connolly of the Slipper Men. It's okay. The best bit of it is the arrival of the Slipper Men. The keyboard from Tony is sublime. It's fantastic. It's the bit if you've got the Three Sides Live when they do that medley. They play that on there. Absolutely brilliant. Ravine, one of the weaker tracks, I think. Then we get The Light Dies Down on Broadway. Pretty atmospheric, sort of bringing the highness of The Lamb Lies. This is it Dies Down. This really nice piece of guitar playing from Steve Hackett. Riding the Scree. It's alright. It's got some nice interplay between Tony Banks and Steve Hackett. Pretty good. In the Rapids, pretty solid track. Pretty cool vocal from Peter Gabriel. It ends the album. Solid track again. Some nice guitar work from Steve Hackett. Okay, although this is a masterpiece of work and everyone says it's one of the best progressive rock albums ever made, there are some flaws in it, I think. There's some songs in there that shouldn't be there. I think there's too many songs on it. Excuse me. But it's a fantastic album. And I do like playing it. And I'll give it an RTO ranking of 9.5. Oh, I just can't shift this cough. Try again, Ian. Okay then, coming in at number 4. Another album from 1976. The 8th album, Steve Hackett's last. Wind and Wuthering. Opens up with the 11th Earl of Mar. Brilliant track. Again, we got some great keyboards from Tony. Fantastic drumming from Phil. Second track, One for the Vine. Superb track this is. I like the gentle start and it builds up, and then you get that fantastic keyboard and drums. Brilliant. And then it just quietens back down. Truly a classic from Genesis. Your Own Special Way, not my cup of tea, I'm afraid. That pop stuff, this is where first track it really comes in. You go, ooh, this is going on a different route. Next track is an instrumental called What Gorilla. This one's forgotten about. It's got some great keyboards from Tony. Nice guitar work again from Steve Hackett. Next track is All in a Mouse's Night. Awesome track. Great guitar work from Steve Hackett. He got some bass pedal on this as well. It's fantastic. Then we get my favourite track, Blood on the Rooftops. Superb stuff. I love the vocal from Phil. Some nice classical guitar from Steve Hackett. I love the lyrics, especially about sitting around watching the Queen on Christmas Day. It's just a fantastic track and I love listening to it. It's one of them tracks I can put on and just listen to. And then we get probably the best instrumental piece that Genesis ever did. It's the Unquiet Slumbers for the Sleepers and In That Quiet Earth. Absolutely brilliant. It's got some great guitar work from Steve Hackett. I've heard them doing That Quiet Earth in a medley and it was just brilliant. And the album ends with the stunning Afterglow. I just love how it starts nice and quiet and it just builds up into this crescendo at the end. Superb. I just love that track. Okay, I think Wind and Wuthering has probably got some of Steve Hackett's finest guitar work that he did with Genesis. There's a couple of tracks on there that is that poppy Genesis is starting to raise its head, but on the whole this is a fantastic album. Solid, got some memorable songs on it, and there's about 3 or 4 that are probably in my top 20, so I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 9.6. Okay then, number 3, third album, released in 1971, Nursery Cryme. First album to feature Steve Hackett and Phil Collins. Another great album. Opens up with a fantastic musical box. It's a fantastic track. It's got everything here, hasn't it? Nice gentle singing, some really nice guitar work, great guitar solo, and then you get that closing part. Blows you away. Absolutely fantastic track. Then we get For Absent Friends, that short piece, but this is the first time you hear Phil Collins singing. Pretty good. Then we get the fantastic return of the Giant Honk Dweed. Brilliant. Just that opening keyboards from Tony, that distant offbeat drumming from Phil, and a fantastic belting vocal from Peter. Awesome stuff. Seven Stones, one of the deep cut tracks. Lots of mellotron on this. Great vocal from Peter. Then we get that little nonsense track, Harold the Barrel. Quite fun. Then we get Harlequin. Nice vocals on here from both Peter and Phil. Nice gentle song, little gem. Then we get another fantastic track, The Fountain of Samolsis. Love that Mellotron start with them rumbling drums, and it feels like you're going on a gallop in a forest on a horse. Great keyboard work, some great guitar solos in this. Tony and Steve rule this track. It's brilliant. This album, brilliant from start to finish. There's not a bad track on it at all. And I'll give it an RTO ranking up at 9.8. Oh, 1 and 2, this was hard. Oh, I have never really sat down and thought about my favourite albums until someone asked me to do it, and oh dude, I was in, my heart says one thing, my brain said one thing, so I went like this today. Okay, coming in number 2, we have the 4th album, released in 1972. It's the fantastic Foxtrot. Opens up with probably one of the greatest openings, and when you think of a Mellotron, what's the first track that comes into your head? Watchers of the Skies. It's so prominent in this track, absolutely stonking track. I love that opening, the bass, it's just brilliant. Then we get Timetable, one of the mellower tracks on the album, but it's still very good. Get Them Out by Friday, brilliant track. Do love Peter Gabriel's vocal on this. He's sort of playing different parts as again. It's a feature of Genesis, like a story song. Then we get the Can Utility and the Coastliners. Lovely Mellotron in this. Great drum performance from Phil, spot on. And I've heard Steve Hackett do this as well, and it's really good. Sorry about that. Then we flip over and we get that little instrumental bit called Horizons. I love it. Steve Hackett, just him on a classic guitar, and we'll get plenty of that later on in his career, of course. And then we come to one of the greatest prog songs ever written. Supper's Ready. What can you say about this? Except it's bloody brilliant. Opens up, of course, the first pitch of the Lover's Leap, walking across the sitting room. Now, in the playlist, someone's put an animation to this. It's fantastic. I've put it in. Gotta sit and watch it. It's superb. Lover's Leap, I love that. Then you get the little bit in between. You get the Guaranteed Eternal Sanctuary Man, pretty awesome. I Can and X Can on their Band of Merry Men, really thing. How Dare I Be So Beautiful. Slows everything right down, that piece. Literally to nothing. And then you just get a flower. And then we go into Willow Farm. If you go down to Willow Farm, brilliant piece. Love that piece of the song. My favourite bit of the song, actually. Then of course we end up with the finale, Apocalypse 9/8 in 9/8. Awesome. Obviously this is my favourite track on the album. I'm not going to say exactly how fond I'm of this, because I'm doing a Christmas special on my favourite prog tracks. Obviously this is in it, so we'll talk about that more when we come to it. Foxtrot, amazing album, essential prog album. If you want to get someone into prog, bung this on. It's a pure delight from start to finish. So I'm going to give it an RTO ranking of 9.9. Okay, for the astute members of our viewing audience, if you've been taking notes, you know what my favourite album is. Fifth album, my number one, released in 1973, selling England by the pound. This edged Foxtrot because there's so many songs on here that are essential songs for me to listen to by Genesis, and if I was to put a playlist on there, there's loads off this album. Opens up with the brilliant Dancing with the Moonlit Night, bit of a protest song. 73, England, selling England by the pound. Had a very good time. Love the guitar solo in this, and the great keyboards are brilliant. Then we get the quirky I Know What I Like in Your Wardrobe, some of the weirdest lyrics you will ever hear. It's quirky, it's fun, and there's just something brilliant about it. Then we get the best song ever recorded by Genesis. It's got the best guitar solo by Steve Hackett. For the Firth of Fifth. From that opening guitar and the piano at the beginning to the guitar solo, the flute from Peter Gabriel. It's got so many elements that you need in a prog track, and it's this one, and I love it. Then we get More Fool Me. A nice vocal from Phil on this. Pretty cool track. Nice short one, but I do like that one. Then we get the fantastic Battle of Epping Forest. Another epic track. Tony Banks is on fire on this. And it's got some of Phil's best drumming with Genesis on this track. Awesome stuff. Then we get After the Ordeal. It's an instrumental, lovely work, an interplay between Steve and Tony on this. Ever so good. Play very well together. Be nice to see them actually working together again, or getting on stage together, because I think they worked so well together. They played off each other brilliantly. Then we get the Cinema Show. Awesome track. This has got Tony Banks' best ever keyboard solo run that he ever did with Genesis. Top draw stuff, and I love how in the middle, towards the end of his solo, you got the drums. That drum little run from Phil adds to this. Great song. Then it ends up with the Isle of Plenty. It sort of carries on from the Cinema Show, and then it goes back into a little bit of the Moonlit Night. Very delicate touches on the guitar from Steve Hackett, and then you get a little bit of Mellotron. Superb. What a way to end a fantastic album. This album is a masterpiece of progressive rock. Again, an essential album for people getting into prog rock. Best album this lineup ever did. This is when I think they were at their supremely peak. It sounds great live as well, and that's why it's my favourite album, and I can only give it a big 10 today. Absolutely belting album, like they all are. They're all great albums. A great band. I just love their stuff. Okay, well, I don't know. I went through that because my nose kept bunging up. So I do apologise for all the sniffles, coughs, splutters, etc. Not much else to say today because I've got lots to do that's nothing to do with RTO. But don't forget about the Christmas quiz on the 23rd of December. I can't remember which one it was yesterday. I said the September. What was I thinking? But they are available at the below email address. I'll be back tomorrow, and tomorrow we have got Then and Now. We're looking at the up and down career of Islands U2. Album artwork tomorrow. It's just a little taster of something that will come later and probably early next year. We're looking at the album artwork covers of a certain band called Dio. And then we've got the update show as well. Busy day tomorrow. So until tomorrow, have a great Wednesday, and I will see you tomorrow. Take care for now.